Hello guys, this video is your instructions on what to do to make your own cause and effect diagram. On the screen right now is the picture I took of the paper that I made for you guys. You will need your name, today's date, your class number, and then under number you're putting the event. So whatever event is tied to your propaganda poster, you will write it there. The title of this diagram is the same as your poster title. And then below that it says source, and that's the place where you got your information. So if that's confusing, then look at this. This is the example that I made. You can see just Mr. Sharp, today's date, number 28. For the event, I wrote Battle of Brandywine. If you remember my example poster, it was at the Battle of Brandywine. The title of my poster was 11 Hours and Still Standing, so you see that's the title here. And for the source, I used history.com, so I wrote down the URL. If you do not know, URL is the part of a website, like at the top, the part that you type in. So let's look back at the original. For most of you, your source should be either your textbook or one of those thin books that we used in class before. I'll have those out and ready for you. If you're doing something like the Boston Tea Party, your textbook is just fine as a source. Only use websites if that information is not in your textbook or one of those books. So, how do we go from the blank page to the full diagram? Well, we got to use our source. So look here, this website is history.com, and this is where I found my information. Wikipedia has a lot of information, but it's often written at a higher level and difficult to understand. It can also be very, very long. If you look here, this is not too long, that's the whole thing. If we put it in a doc, it'd probably be less than a page. So, we can see here, the Battle of Brandywine begins. So, I read the whole thing before I started my document. On September 11th, 1777, General Sir William Howe and General Charles Cornwallis launched a full-scale British attack on General George Washington and the Patriot outpost at Brandywine Creek near Chadds Ford in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, on the road linking Baltimore and Philadelphia. Howe and Cornwallis split their 18,000 troops into two separate divisions, with Howe leading an attack from the front and Cornwallis circling around and attacking from the right flank. The morning had provided the British troops with cover from a dense fog, so Washington was unaware the British had split into two divisions and was caught off guard by the oncoming British attack. Although the Americans were able to slow the advancing British, they were soon faced with the possibility of being surrounded. Surprised and outnumbered by the 18,000 British troops to his 11,000 Continentals, Washington ordered his men to abandon their posts and retreat. Defeated, the Continental Army marched north and camped at Germantown, Pennsylvania. The British abandoned their pursuit of the Continentals and instead began the British occupation of Philadelphia. Congress, which had been meeting in Philadelphia, fled first to Lancaster, then to New York, Pennsylvania, and the British took control, then to York, Pennsylvania, and the British took control of the city without Patriot opposition. The one-day battle at Brandywine cost the Americans more than 1,100 men killed or captured, while the British lost approximately 600 men killed or injured. To make matters worse, the Patriots were also forced to abandon most of their cannon to the British victors after their artillery horses fell in battle. Okay, so now if we look at the diagram I drew, you will notice on this diagram I did not write everything from the article that I read. I just tried to pick a few things for my cause and effect. So I started with General Howe and General Cornwallis split 18,000 troops, and the morning of September 11th, 1777 was super foggy. If we look back at the website, we don't see them talk about the fog until the second paragraph. But that's something that happened before the battle, so it goes at the beginning of our diagram. Let's look back at the diagram. So General Howe and General Cornwallis split 18,000 troops. So then on the next part I mentioned that they both have 9,000 men, and that Howe attacked from the front and Cornwallis attacked from the right flank. And then I connected the fog to something. Why did I mention the fog? Because the fog meant the Americans couldn't see the British troops coming. So all three of those things meant that the Americans were surprised. If we go back to the document, it doesn't exactly say they were surprised. It says, oh, actually it does. It says surprised and outnumbered by 18,000. Yeah, so as I said before, the exact order of the words in the article is not necessarily the order that things happened in history, so you may have to think a little bit to figure that out. Let's look back at the diagram. So the Americans were surprised. The Americans being surprised led to Washington ordered the Americans to retreat, and that led to the British took the Americans' cannons that were left when the Americans retreated. Let's look back at the website, and you'll notice a lot of stuff happened at the end. Like it tells the places that the Americans ran away to, and it tells where the British went. It tells how many people died. And I didn't want to write all that. I wanted my diagram to be simple, so I just picked something that I thought was interesting. I thought it was interesting that the British took the cannons. So I made that the end of my timeline. The thing about history is you can go on forever. This caused this, caused this, caused this, or this was the effect, and that led to this effect, and that led to this effect. So you're going to have to kind of stop. Just pick what's interesting about your event, what stands out to you about your event. I want it to be more than just one box as a cause and one box as an effect, but it doesn't need to go on forever. So make some choices about how it looks. You can pause the video on my example to look at that if that will help you. And when you're done with your cause and effect, please place it on my desk. Alright, thanks guys. Let's stop this video here.